In this video, I'm going to show you how to assemble and adjust a miter saw. I'm also going to go over the basic parts and functions of a miter saw. So to go over some part names and functions, this is an extension piece, so you could just loosen it right here. This could slide outward like this. Then you can lock it back into place with a screw. This supports a workpiece out here from the saw. This is called the fence right here. Your workpiece butts up against this. This could be slid in and out right here like this. Same for the other side. It's the exact same setup. This is your miter lock, so to loosen it like this. This backs off the little stopper right here against that surface. Change the miter setting, you have to pull in this little indent. This is indented into these little inserts right here. So when I pull up on this little lever right here, it removes the indent and then you're able to rotate. So I'm going to leave it at the 0 degree indent right here. It'll click into place. To change the bevel, which is the angle like this, it's tightened down with this. I'm going to loosen this upwards like this. Then you can rotate the saw back and forth like this. The angle is red right here on this scale, so I'm going to put it back to 0. There are no indents on this, so it's completely continuous. So I'm going to set it as close to 0 as possible. Then I'm going to tighten this back down. It needs to be very tight where this will move on you. This is a lock for the saw, so this can pull out and you can rotate it. What this does is it'll automatically lock the saw when it goes into down position like that. So then the saw is locked into place down. This is the slide back here. This locks it, so you have to loosen it and the saw can slide back and forth. You can lock it into place anywhere you want just by tightening this. The switches up here control the laser light, the LED light, and then of course this is the power to the blade. So for safety, you press this back like this, then you're able to. And of course this is the guard for the blade. Never modify this or remove it. This always needs to be in place no matter what. These small screws right here control the depth of cut. Don't mess with this back one. This is already adjusted so that the saw cannot go into the table. This is for setting shallower cuts than the table. So to adjust it, you just back off this little lock nut right here. Then you screw in however much you need. Say right here. Then you would tighten it back up like this. That way when you go down, it'll stop before it'll hit here. In this tutorial, I am using a square, a 6mm Allen or hex key, a scrap piece of wood, and a Phillips screwdriver. First, I'm going to insert this stabilizer. This goes in the back right here. What this piece does is stabilize the saw from the rear, so when this is slid back, it doesn't overbalance and topple over. If you flip the saw on its side, you'll see that there's a small screw that you could loosen. After you've loosened it, you could push the stabilizer in slightly and just retighten it. This is a dust catcher. So to install this, all you need to do is squeeze these little wires right here, and the output is right here. It's a big pipe coming out the back. So I'm just going to slide this on like this. Here's that piece right here. So I'm just squeezing the wires. These are actually just spare brushes for the motor. To replace these, you typically undo this, and probably there's another side right here as well. When these wear out, the motor will start making and breaking contact, and then it will eventually just not run at all. You just pop these covers off and you replace these exactly like they're installed. This piece is a clamp for your workpiece. So this simply slides in like this. The flat side goes against the screw, so when you slide it in, you can tighten this down and it won't be able to move. This can sit in 4 different areas, either right here in this hole. There's also a hole on the other side you could slide into. And it's also the exact same way on this side of the saw, hole right here, as well as down here. All this needs to do is slide into the hole. Nothing's actually securing it. When you press up right here, this creates a large moment. And because there's such a small gap between the shaft and the hole, it locks it in place via friction. So to demonstrate how this works, I have the clamp right here. I'm going to put my workpiece right here. Slide the clamp in right here. Then I'm just going to tighten down right here. And it'll start to tighten down right here so it can't go anymore. And this is solid, and then you can make your cut. These are actually just small hooks, so you could wrap the extension cord in. So what we're going to do to install these is in the rear, I'm going to use the supplied screw and line it up right here. In the bottom, there's this little pin here. This will go in this hole right here. The other piece uses a threaded screw like this. So I'm going to stick this in here, and this goes straight into this tapped hole. Once you've installed the hooks, you'll be able to wrap the cord around like this for storage. I'm going to show you how to install the included blade. To do this, I'm going to slide the guard back like this. This will expose a small screw right here, so I'm just going to unscrew that. That way the guard is held in place back here. This gives you clearance to install the blade now. This small button right here is a spindle lock, so you have to press this down as you're spinning this. There it goes, it's pushed in, so now this locks the spindle. So while holding the spindle lock, I'm gonna get the wrench on here. So this is reverse thread, I forgot. So it's righty loosey, lefty tighty. So I'm spinning it clockwise now to loosen it. So I'm only going to remove the outer flange right now. I'm going to go ahead and remove the protective cover from the blade. And the orientation of the blade matters. You can see the rotation right here. So this spins this way. So I'm going to install this like this. You can see the direction of rotation with this arrow right here as well for reference. This small wash right here is loose. This needs to fit on the inside of the blade to keep it concentric. You can see the blade is sitting fully around that small piece. The flat side in here needs to face this way. So it installs like this. The small cutout of this piece, the shaft, will fit through here like this. Now I'm just going to put the bolt back in. Don't forget that it's reverse thread, so that to tighten this you go counterclockwise. Now while holding the spindle lock still, I'm going to tighten this. So this is just hand tight. I'm putting roughly probably 15 foot-pounds at most. Now with the blade tight, make sure it's secure, it doesn't wiggle at all. So now I'm going to replace the guard. So this little cover needs to slide back down. This little hook needs to go back around that little screw, then just tighten it back down. Make sure the guard functions. So now I'm going to show you how to adjust the saw to make sure the blade is completely perpendicular and it matches the angles right on here as well as the bevel side back there. So to start out with, make sure both screws on your fences are tightened down. Then I'm just going to get a flat workpiece and butt it up against the fence. Now it's time to make the cut, so make sure to put on your hearing protection as well as your eye protection. Check to see how true the cut was. Line these pieces up in reverse. So this is how the piece of wood was originally. So I'm going to flip this upside down. And I can see this had a very large bevel in it, but I'm going to ignore that since I'm only going to adjust the miter right now. Then I'm going to get the straight edge and line it up right here. I can see that's a fairly straight cut. It's maintaining the straight edge on the cut with each other as well as along the side. So I know this is fairly straight. The other way to test is to simply put one edge against right here, the square, and then the other end right here. I can see that it's a very straight cut because it's a straight edge on this side lining up, as well as right here. I can't see any gap right there, so it was a very true cut. If this angle was not true and there was a miter in it already at the 0 degree indent, then you know the fence is off. To adjust the miter, you will first need to unplug the saw. Next, with everything locked down, I'm going to get my square, put one edge up against the fence like this, and slide the other end against the blade. If there is a gap, you will then need to adjust the fence. To adjust the fence, you just need to loosen these two bolts back here. So I'm using my 6mm Allen key. I'm just going to loosen them. Once they're loosened, you will then need to line it up so that it's completely square with the blade. Once one fence is adjusted, you will need to move the saw back up. With the saw back up out of the way, you will then lay your square right here across the adjusted fence. Loosen the other fence and then make sure it lines up with your square. That way it makes a perfectly straight line between both fences and you can make a true cut. Then make sure both fences are locked back down. Once both fences are completely square, you will then need to make sure your reference point is actually on 0. I can see my little indicator is slightly off. So that's good enough for me right there. It's right on 0. And adjust the bevel angle on this. So to do this, make sure it's set to 0 on your indicator over here. Get your workpiece and the long dimension needs to be vertical so you'll be able to indicate it easier. So testing the bevel angle is the exact same as with the miter. I'm just going to take the pieces, put them together, reverse them, and see how crooked they are right here. As you can see, there's a very large gap here, so I know the bevel is not at 0. I could also tell right here that this is obviously not square. If I do it right here, there's a big gap. If I put it over here, there's a big gap down here. So I will need to adjust the bevel angle. Adjust the angle, put the workpiece back on like it was originally. I know it was like this. You could also have marked right here. You could have put a line directly across here to know that this is upwards and this is the left piece and that this is the right piece. So I'm gonna line this up. This is angled like this, so I know the blade is coming in at an angle like this, so it needs to rotate this way. So I'm just gonna loosen down here. Then I'm gonna very slightly move the saw over. I'm gonna watch that graduation mark down there and move it over roughly, say 5 degrees to start out with. Then I'm gonna tighten the bevel lock down here, back. Now I'm gonna do another test cut. I could tell just by looking at it that I over adjusted, and instead of straighten it out vertically. I went well past it, and now I'm at an angle the other way. So now I'm going to move it back a few degrees. Same as the miter setting, I'm going to readjust this indicator right here. So there's another screw right here, so I'm going to loosen it. Now that's zeroed out, and now you are done. You should be able to make completely square cuts. There should be 0 miter angle and 0 bevel angle, and your indicator should be zeroed out. So in this video, I went over how to assemble and adjust a miter saw. If this video was helpful, please like and subscribe.